everyone. Welcome back to House of Footy. It's your boy Ray, and alongside me is Gio
Yo, 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 what's good?
and Mac.
Good evening.
And we're back to preview action coming up for match week 18 of the Premier League. And so, Mac, welcome back. And definitely, we got a lot of talking points to get into. Before we do, don't forget to follow us on our social medias, both on Twitter and Instagram. Our handle is at house_of_footy. Also, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to us. We are on both Spotify and YouTube. Lastly, feel free to get in touch with us via email. We love hearing from you guys, and we want you guys getting involved. Our email is houseoffooty@hotmail.com. But let's get straight into it. Mac, Arsenal, first place Arsenal, are taking on 7th place Brighton in this upcoming round of fixtures. Both teams coming off of a win and currently fighting. One is fighting for the title and one is fighting for a European spot. So a tasty game. What do you think will take place in this game?
This definitely can be from an Arsenal fan's perspective, a potentially nerve-wracking game because Brighton, even with the managerial change with Graham Potter going to Chelsea, they have still looked a consistent, strong team with a lot of good players, with quality in the midfield, defensively strong, not kind of allowing the other teams to create a lot of opportunities. So this potentially can be a tough fixture. I'll be interested to see if McAllister is back playing for Brighton, coming off of Argentina winning the World Cup. I don't think he was there. He was out last game, if I remember correctly. But he might potentially be returning back. There's been rumors some of them are going to slowly make their way in. I'll be shocked if they do play, considering that there is just another round of fixtures in a couple more days. Maybe give them a little bit more of a break. But they could have their full complement of players finally. And Arsenal, of course, coming off a strong performance against West Ham, can be in a position to kind of double up that result and face back-to-back tougher fixtures. Even though West Ham right now on the table are not the best, they still have a lot of quality in their side, as well as Brighton. So it should be a very, very interesting game. I would be surprised though if Brighton do pull something out here, because Arsenal are in complete fire form right now. Nketiah, Henry, Bergkamp mixture. I think that's what, Ray, you were messaging as soon as Nketiah scored that goal from last weekend. I'll be surprised if he doesn't have a little bit of that sauce waiting for those Brighton defenders. So I think potentially I'll look up for Arsenal, right?
Yeah, I mean, Gio and I, Mac, if you heard it, our last podcast, we were at least I think we were very much praising Arsenal and how well they played against a very, very defensive West Ham. Gio, though, Brighton, they might come up with I don't think they'll be as defensive as West Ham. I think Brighton have showed that they could play and match up with better teams, as we see them getting results here and there against, even the top 6 teams. What do you think will take place in this game, Gio?
I think there will be quite a bit of goals. I think Brighton just loves scoring, and I think Trossard would want to get back on track, as he has been quite successful this season in terms of scoring. Now, in terms of McAllister, whether he's back in, Griezmann's already back in the lineup. I mean, obviously you have to factor in the partying and the fitness level, but I can't see him being out for too long. Just wanting to be with the team and try to get them into a European spot or consistently stay into a European spot. I think he'd want to get back on the pitch as soon as possible. But whether he's on there or not, I think, it's going to be more of a goal-scoring game. So for neutrals, anybody watching, definitely expect goals here, because Brighton isn't just going to sit back and just absorb pressure. They're going to want to go forward, as they've shown throughout the season, and they will score goals. So hopefully, I mean, this game in particular, I think, again, win and lost in the midfield. We'll see how sort of Arsenal kind of neutralize Caicedo and see how that turns out. But I think Arsenal will edge it. I just think depth will play the part here. Whether Nketiah scores, Mac, don't get too excited just yet. It was one great turn, and he still has plenty of proof to earn that 14.
I think we all agree with that. But the question that to hear, Mac, there's a lot of games coming up. Obviously, they're playing this weekend, and then in a couple of days' time, again, they'll be in action. Arsenal taking on Brighton now, but have Newcastle in the horizon, and obviously at this point, any question you ask any team in the league leading positions, they'll say they're taking it game by game. But Mac, could they potentially be looking or keeping an eye out on that game against Newcastle on how they line up against Brighton? What do you think?
Absolutely. I think I wouldn't be surprised if we see a couple of either early substitutions or certain rotations in the squad. As an example, against West Ham, Tierney started ahead of Zinchenko for the first time. I think Zinchenko was fully healthy, and yet Tierney was picked. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a rotation in that position, as well as on the other side with Tomiyasu and Ben White, something like that, where you see not a major overhaul, but quicker substitutions if Arsenal already have a fair lead, to bring other key players on, instead of in like the previous game, like Fabio Vieira came on. I think it was for Martinelli, but it was like the 86th minute. I wouldn't be surprised if Arsenal are early in the game, let's say in the 60th minute, if they are in a similar position where they have a couple goal lead, where they make early subs, because that Newcastle game, even though it is at home, can potentially be another opportunity for a statement win, because they're probably, I think we would all agree, on the best run of form. I think they prior to this weekend, I know we're skipping ahead a game, have won 6 games straight, haven't lost a game since the fifth match day. Fifth match day. So they've been in complete fire form. So you want to be able to make sure that against those bigger teams, you're doing everything you can to prepare, but not over kind of looking past your opponent right in front of you, because Brighton are still a quality team. So these back-to-back games will be very, very tough for Arsenal. So it'll be interesting to see how Arteta manages the squad to be able to make sure that he has good performances and good lineups for both games.
Speaking about those late subs, I'm not sure if you guys saw it. It was doing the rounds on Twitter. Mohamed Anelni's sub for Arsenal in their game against West Ham literally came on, ran around for 30 seconds, and then full time whistle came. I think we're predicting earlier subs and even changes to the starting lineup, Max. So we'll keep an eye on that. But Gio, Arsenal, these types of games previously, and just reading out the fixtures from last year, Arsenal did tie Brighton away, and then away, and then Brighton beat Arsenal at the Emirates last year. We've said it time and time again this season, but how do you think chances are for Arsenal this time around, with sort of their really being in form and that spirit in that camp is really, really good? Is this a possibility for them to slip up here, or do you think they got it? They should just be focusing on getting the result and moving on.
I can see a slippage, but it's gonna come down to whether. Sorry, it can happen, but I don't think Brighton have the offensive ability to beat Ramsdale that many times. Brighton have kept it close against top 6 sides, but the fact of the matter is, Saliba and Gabriel have been, so consistent this year that even late game, whether it's tied or they're down, they haven't given up, and they've bent, but they haven't cracked, and even defenders are putting in efforts to score goals. So I think even if Brighton were to put an effort in and keep the game close throughout the game, throughout, and level them on scoring or anything like that, Arsenal will be gunning for a goal. So if they were to drop points, I think it'll be a tie at most, but I don't think I can see an Arsenal loss this week.
Okay, all right, cool. So we'll keep an eye on Arsenal Brighton, but another game that is taking place, Man U against Wolves. Again, both teams did come off of a win in their last games, and different stories though. Man U are currently 5th, potentially could be 4th, given they win their game in hand. Wolves though, just 18th, still in that relegation battle. Gio, what do you think will happen in this game?
I'm scared. Last time Man U played a team with a new manager, they lost severely, and that was against Villa. And again, Man U always brings their fans' hopes up, and they'll lose to games like these. In particular, games like these, where they come out very flat, miss good opportunities. Not many not many great balls in, not many overlapping runs, and it would just frustrate fans the entire game. And then the following week they'll play a top to mid tier table team and have a fantastic performance. Whether it's a draw or a win, they'll have a fantastic performance. So it really worries me because they almost, again, we've said this before, they always play to the level of their competition, and that's not what a great team does. So I'm worried, although they played quite well against Nottingham Forest. Again, a lot of players coming back from the World Cup and stuff like that. Minutes, fatigue, all play into factors. So I'm hoping for a win. But again, based on history, you can expect a poor performance this week.
Ooh, okay. I think Gio's giving them that Spurs from last year. Get a win, get a loss, get a win, get a loss. So, Mac, obviously they were very impressive in the 3-0 win against Nottingham Forest out last time they were out. They did have quite a few changes to that lineup, obviously, with some players still returning from the World Cup. But interesting, Varane did start. Martinez, I think, has now returned to the team, but I'm not certain if he'll start. What do you think will happen in this game, and do you see any changes in the lineups for Manu?
I wouldn't be surprised if Martinez does shift in for. I don't know about this game. It might be too soon, but I don't know how long-term sustainable a center back pairing of Varane and Luke Shaw it is in the Premier League. Luke Shaw is a quality player, but that's definitely not his natural position. And facing a team that in their previous lineup that they had is Daniel Podence, Diego Costa, as well as Chang in the front three for Wolves. Those three players, they do have some quality in them. And if on his day, Costa may still have a little bit left in the tank to be able to give it at kind of a smaller defender like Luke Shaw, who's not playing in his natural position. So I would be a little bit worried about that, even though Wolves, through the course of these last couple of seasons, that's been their main issue, is putting the ball into the back of the net. They've only scored 10 goals thus far through the Premier League season. So I would be more worried about, if I'm a Manchester United fan, is that can we control the midfield to make sure that we're building a strong enough foundation for offensive players to be able to create opportunities? At the same time, making sure, because Wolves are good on the ball, but in my opinion, Manchester United are still best on the counter. Players like Rashford, Martial, they're better on the break. So even though, yes, you want to be able to control the midfield, in those moments in transition, because Wolves do want to keep the ball, they do want to hold on possession. If you can wrangle it back after they've had it, can you hit them quick enough? Can you hit them on the break? Especially because traditionally they play across three center backs, so the wingers may have opportunities to go one-on-one in those positions. So I think those are areas that they want to be able to focus on to have a successful game. But on the other side, Wolves are set up to kind of circumvent that. If they decide to, let's sit back, let's try to absorb pressure, let's see if we can hit them, go to the other side, hit Manchester United on the break, I think they could potentially be successful there. So I do see where Gio's coming from, but I anticipate a low-scoring game. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a 1-1, a 1-0 from either team. I'd be shocked if either team scores more than 2 goals. Just given that's not what either team have done well thus far this year. They're generally relied more on the defensive side of the ball and have been fortunate that way. So that's what I think would end up happening.
Okay. I'm surprised you guys are both so downbeat on Man U. I think they were balling out in their last game against Nottingham Forest. And
the
I think
key word
also,
there is Nottingham Forest.
Fair. They did also beat Burnley, I think, in that League Cup match, and looked decent. And so, you know what? At home against Wolves, who are struggling again, new manager and still trying to figure things out. If Man U gets off to a good start, and I think that's what Ten Hag should be targeting. Get a good start. You're at home. Don't let things happen. Don't let what happened to Everton happen to you, where you linger. It goes into the 90th minute tied, and you're forcing bodies forward, and you get hit on the counter. Honestly, yeah. Ten Hag, I expect he puts out a good lineup early on, gets a good start, and gets that lead before halftime, and then settle it down. They have the ability, I think, and players to control the game later on, and so that's how I expect it to take place. Whereas Wolves still, they have, like Gio mentioned, they're still getting used to that new manager. And even though things typically take a turn when you have a new manager. Things could go well. I think this might be a game where Wolves would look at saying, you know what, it's a free hit. We're still settling in. If we take a loss, it's not the worst thing. Obviously, they're going to be coming out to get a result, but hey, Casemiro, Bruno are just going to be talking to Ruben Neves in Portuguese and just letting them know what's good. Just wanted to mention that these teams traded 1-0 wins last season, each away from home. So even though Manu is home, this doesn't. I guess last year's result doesn't really dictate what will happen. But apart from that, Gio, just quickly asking you now, Mac gave us his prediction on low scoring game. What do you think the final score could be for this game?
I think it's going to be. I would almost have to agree with you. It could have to be a 1-1 type game. If it's not a 1-1 type game, it's going to be a very lopsided game, and that's if Man U are going all out on terms of offense. And again, because of how Ruben Neves performed before against Man U, and they know he loves to take shots from outside the box. It'd be dangerous for them to want to play a more offensive or a heavily offensive game where if they lose the ball, a center back in Luke Shaw is going to have to be back there, or possibly an unfit Harry Maguire who's coming off sickness, and Lissandro's still not completely ready to go. It's dangerous. So it's either going to be extremely lopsided in terms of in favor of Man U, but I can't see that happening. So I'll agree with Mac on this one. Again, it's hard for me to say, but I think Mac's got it pretty on point this week.
Okay, well, obviously we'll watch that game and keep you guys updated on the results. Right now, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back previewing some more EPL games. So stay with us. Welcome back to House of Footy, guys. We are going to continue our preview for match week 18 of the Premier League, and the next game we're going to talk about is Tottenham Hotspur versus Aston Villa. Tottenham currently in 4th place, and Aston Villa, coming off of that loss, still in 12th, but looking to turn things around and continue pushing for that top half of the table. Gio, Tottenham, what can we expect to see from Tottenham this game? They've been inconsistent throughout, but what do you expect?
As many ways as Aston Villa can lose it and Arsenal can beat them, I think Aston Villa have as many ways that they could beat Arsenal as well. Yes, they haven't been fantastic, but under new management, I think they can tackle this game a little differently. We expected when Gerrard was under management, we could almost expect week in week out what we're going to get. A very similar lineup, a very sort of attacking type play, wing backs, this and that. Lucas Digne running up and down that pitch like a madman, and not really defending as much as he should. But I think Unai is slowly integrating his ways onto the pitch. And you can see it almost immediately after they stepped on the pitch against Man U. They figured out what they can do against a side like Man U, and I think because Spurs have so many flaws, there's a lot of way that they can exploit them as well. If it's going to be hard, but if they can sort of neutralize Harry Kane, I don't know how he's going to do that, but please Unai, if there's one thing you can do for me this week is just to do that. Then they can do it because they have, like you said, Ollie Watkins scored a great goal last week against Liverpool. Early in the week against Liverpool. They have scoring ability. They just need to be more solid in the back. So if Unai is smart, which I think he is, I think he understands the Prem. I think he understands how Tottenham play, as he's played them many times before. Then I think he can put in a great performance for Villa, or put in the right squad to sort of neutralize this Spurs side.
Okay, Mac, former Arsenal manager Unai Emery will be taking on Tottenham Hotspurs. What are your thoughts? Give us your thoughts.
I think this game, it will be very interesting, and I think we can say a lot in the first couple minutes in regards to mentality for Tottenham, because they are a team that, as we've talked to and joked continuously about before, is that good performance, poor performance, good performance, poor performance, very hot and cold. And even in their most recent games where they start off very, very poor and then come rampaging back as soon as the switch comes on. Conte yells at them at halftime, and suddenly now that they can play very well and create opportunities to score finally. And in regards to their previous result, they could have come out on top if they just stuck to that whole game plan, that mentality from the start. And it's hard to know, is it good coaching because Conte is able to turn that around, or is it poor coaching because he doesn't get them to start in that same manner? It's very much kind of a debate going on between Spurs fans about what's really needed to be able to make sure that from the start we can be on the front foot. And against an Aston Villa team that, to be frank, against Liverpool, were very, 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 very wasteful in my opinion. And I would make the argument that Leon Bailey was just as wasteful as Darwin Núñez.
You're trolling.
No, I'm being 100% serious. They're both trolling. They are both trolling.
Like
just missing continuous opportunities where if he puts those away, maybe we get a different game. If Núñez puts those away, Aston Villa are slapped 7-1, right? So I think it's definitely performances like that are papering over a lot of cracks in that Aston Villa team. And I don't know if Unai Emery's this is his first transfer window at the club. He came back coming from Sevilla, right? If I remember correctly. They were in a Champions League position in La Liga to then come over to the Premier League to coach Aston Villa, who at the time were in the bottom half of the table. Well, even the bottom quarter of the table, right? So he needs time, and he is a manager with a lot of reputation to be able to kind of build this back up. So I think this might be a level too soon, given the quality that he has on his team. And it'll be interesting to see over this transfer window and next the changes he does make. But I think this might be a little bit too much for them if Tottenham are even 50% on their game. The key part for Spurs, in my opinion, is that there's no Richarlison. So you have a natural front three that's simple, that's clean, that you have two creators, you have the creator in Kulusevski, you have the two finishers in Son and Kane. If they're going to be consistent in terms of getting service, for them to be able to have opportunities, I think this game should be fairly easy for Tottenham, in my opinion. And I don't think Aston Villa should have a shout, given the recent run of form. So I'm very, very interested, as well as the return of Bentancur. He should be back. I know he received a abductor injury playing against Ghana, but supposedly he's fully healthy, and the only reason why he missed the last game was due to suspension. So if he's back, they would be even better and have another creative force to be able to kind of attack Aston Villa, who are, in my opinion, very poor defensively. So even though if you look at it the right way, you could see Aston Villa have a chance here, in my opinion, I think Tottenham should clearly win this game.
Okay, fair. I think Unai Emery came from Villarreal, if I'm not mistaken, but yes. just wanted to mention that. Again, you guys are very much, I think, on beat with Tottenham winning, but I like Aston Villa. Maybe I'm just playing the devil's advocate, but yeah, Bailey did miss a few chances, like you mentioned, but for the record, Núñez was trolling harder than anyone on that pitch. But no, and the interesting point that you brought that up, because Danny Ings, I think, came on to replace him in that game against Liverpool. I think this game is calling out for Danny Ings to start along with Ollie Watkins, and I think that they're going to be looking to hit Spurs on the break as much as possible and with as much, I guess, forward ability as possible, because Tottenham are not great at building the ball up. They often rely on maybe switches of play, try to find a mismatch or a numerical advantage on the wings to try to exploit teams. If Unai Emery and his track record is he's had a really good job building teams defensively. If they're consistent, they are away, so that's obviously going to be the game plan. If they're consistent and they're disciplined, I could see them getting some chances. Brentford weren't amazing. Tottenham weren't amazing against Brentford, and Brentford did have those runs from Mbeumo and Ivan Toney causing havoc, so I expect the same thing for Ollie Watkins, and if Danny Ings starts, I could see that happen as well for Aston Villa. So I think it's a little closer going into this game, but we'll have to see how that plays out. Just wanted to mention Spurs did win 2-1 in the same fixture last year, as well as winning 4-0 at Aston Villa. So even though Spurs do have that, 2 wins in the last season, I think this new side by Emery, it could be a good evening for Emery if you allow it to be. But let's move on, guys, to the remaining Premier League games. Gio, I'm going to hit you first. Out of those 7 remaining Premier League games, which game stands out to you the most?
To me, it's actually West Ham versus Brentford.
Okay. Right.
Look, I think this is a very winnable game for West Ham. And this is sort of almost a way that they can steer things back in the right direction. I mean, of course, Brentford being 10th, having a decent season for the most part. But I just think the talent that West Ham have, they shouldn't be where they are. And after another tough performance from them last week, I think, hopefully, I mean, it's tough to say it took them this long to sort of wake the boys up, but I think after a performance like that, they should be woken up. Like, guys, we need to do something. Or one, David Moyes is gone, or 2, a lot of us are going to be gone too. If nothing turns around, and it might not get any better if David Moyes is gone for a lot of these guys, because I think David Moyes is the reason, if not, one of the reasons why a lot of these players are still on the same team, because of the majority of the success under Moyes. So I think everybody needs to understand, yes, this team is very talented, and yes, they can attack. They had opportunities, but they just need to put it all together. I think they're a couple of steps away, and I think a team like Brentford, who again at times have shown that they can get very attack friendly. So I think because of the talent that West Ham possess, they have the capabilities to hit Brentford back on the counter attack as well. So we'll see how Jared Bowen is. We'll see how Mikel Antonio is. I'm not sure if Declan Rice is playing, but if he is playing, then it's definitely a great ad for him to sort of see if he can thread balls through to the attacking players.
Just quickly, Matt, because we covered Arsenal West Ham in our last podcast. You weren't able to be there, but West Ham going from what were they last season? Probably in the top 8, being able to qualify for Europe, and now currently 16th with a negative 7 goal difference so far. Big fallout. What do you expect for this game?
It'll be interesting to see. I think it's tough because you look at the names on the team sheet and you expect consistent results because they have a lot of quality. They brought in Paqueta, who's a phenomenal player, starts for Brazil. They have a lot of attacking options up front, but it just hasn't come together. Is it just in terms of a lot of burnout from the team? Because we talked through a lot last year, the amount of fixtures that they played, and I think between them and Liverpool, given how both teams, I would say, are heavily underperforming thus far this year, is it because of that? And that's had such a drag on in more of a compact season now than even last year, and they haven't had enough time to be able to really recover. Is that a factor? Maybe. I don't know. But for me, they have a lot of quality on the team, and it's probably it's very disappointing where they are. But I think you have to respect Moyes, what he's done for the club. Putting them in the position last year, these last couple of years, it wasn't just last year, the previous year as well, performing very, very well. Give them the time to be able to get it back, at least till the end of the rest of the season and kind of reset and go from there. I think that he's in his late 60s as well, so it'll be interesting to see how longer he does even manage, but you have to give him all the opportunity to recover, as well as they're a team in a position, and we may talk about this later, is where they could be in transition very, very quickly. If Declan Rice leaves for an exorbitant fee, he's their best player, most high-profile player, and if leaves, assuming for a large transfer fee, they might have a reset there. So I don't think you could have a better manager for them than David Moyes at the helm to be able to kind of pick replacements there. So for this individual game, hopefully West Ham turn it around, and Ivan Toney bets on West Ham.
uh, Man, I love that. But yeah, we'll keep an eye on that game as well. I'll go quickly. I'm interested in Liverpool Leicester. Obviously, I'm a Liverpool fan, but
Why?
I'm more interested. I'm more interested in this game because I think this is the beginning, or you could say the continuation of the Leicester City downfall. They are without James Maddison again in this game. They are going to be going into a game with Liverpool. Just checking at Anfield, where the crowd should be obviously pumped up for that game, and if Liverpool get out to a quick start just like they did against Aston Villa, it might be a long day for Leicester, who are without, as I mentioned, James Maddison, but also without Brian Bertrand, Johnny Evans, James Justin, and Ricardo Pereira. A lot of defenders that I just mentioned there, and they are heavily lacking in defense there. So they have that game next, Leicester, and after that they do face Fulham. So I think Brendan Rodgers might be just looking to get past this game against Liverpool and then just prepare for Fulham. Mac, what do you think?
I think that's a fair shout. It'll be interesting because there's been a lot of make of Leicester's season thus far, but they've recovered very, very nicely. They're 3 points out of being in the top half of the table right now. So it depends. It'll be interesting to see. I don't think this is a make or break game for them. I think this is a game where you can look past and focus on future fixtures down the road and just try to come out it unscathed in terms of injuries and morale. I think that's the important thing for them. I think more so they'll have a reflection on where they're going to go is the transfer window and seeing what happens there, less so than this game or really any game that's going to happen across January. So for them, I'm a little bit more wait and see. And Liverpool should come out, and yeah, I think they could be in a position if they bag a couple early goals to really get the goal tally going up high for a lot of their players, and there'll be a lot of excitement in the club. And if they have the unveiling of Gakpo at halftime or something like that, I think that could definitely stir a lot of emotion. So it'll be interesting to see how this game turns out.
Okay, fair. Okay, Mac, lastly for you, a game that stands out for you with the rain games?
Yeah, not really a game, more about person. So let me break this down. So Man City versus Everton, and here's my thought process. Currently, what do you think? How many goals do you think Erling Haaland has scored more than Premier League teams have scored thus far this season? How many teams across the Premier League does Erling Haaland have more goals than? What would be your guess?
3.
17.
You think he scored more? What's wrong with you? Okay, Gio's trolling like Nunes. It's actually 9 teams. He scored more goals than Southampton, Nottingham Forest, Wolves, Everton, West Ham. Not West Ham. Sorry. Chelsea. He scored more goals than Chelsea, Crystal Palace, and Aston Villa, I think it was. So it's obscene right now what he's doing, and he's facing an Everton team, which, let's be real here, are very, very weak defensively, and I have a lot of questions. So he's just come off scoring 2 goals. Pep has said, you know what, he's just rounding into form. Maybe he is looking in a better position to be a little bit more fit. Maybe we can give him a couple more chances. And if he bags a couple more goals, it's just the numbers that he's breaking are just staggering, and I don't see it stopping. I just see it's like a snowball. It's just going to keep growing and growing and growing, going downhill. And this is another fixture where I think we can see more history being broken, given how weak defensively Everton are and who are lost 3 games in a row. So this is the worst time to face Man City because you're going to be in a position where guaranteed you're going to lose 4 games in a row, boys. So it's tough. That's more where I'm coming from, as well as I think we all picked, I know this is a long time ago, preseason, that Lampard would be the first manager to go. But if he's 4 losses on the bounce, and at that time of recording right now, he is outside the bottom 3. But if results don't start to change, he may start to be back on the hot seat again, given how his teams has recently performed. So that's why I'm more interested in the game, is that it could definitely further divide where these teams are going. Man City on the upward trajectory and Everton on the downward trajectory.
Hey, I'm excited to see it. I obviously have Haaland on my fantasy team, so I expect a fun return. And Haaland is, I think, in that form where obviously he was injured a little bit before the World Cup break. got time to recuperate, came back. I don't think was amazing, but got on the score sheet twice. And at this time, he wants to be having those games come fast and right after each other so that he can continue getting match fit and putting those goals in. Gio, just a quick word. What do you expect for this Man City Everton game?
Mash job. That's all I'm trying to see. I'm trying to see goals. I'm seeing a lot of them. Yeah, no, like you guys said, Everton's defense is not strong. It's not a surprise to anyone at this point. Pickford, he's tiny in terms of keepers. And Holland's bigger than him. So realistically, those balls in the air, he's going to try and jump for them, but Holland's going to be there, and it's going to be great. Because Holland's going to net another 2 this week, and it's going to be very easy, and he's going to hit the poses, he's going to do his thing, he's going to jump in the air, kick the air, whatever he does, he's going to do all of it. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, just wrapping up, I'm not sure if you guys saw, I was watching the highlights for Everton against Wolves, and one thing I did not expect to see in 2022 was Yeremina and who's the striker? Gordon.
Aaron Gordon?
For Everton. Aaron Gordon.
Whoa, not
sorry,
Ron Gordon.
no.
Ron Gordon.
Sorry.
Anthony Gordon?
Anthony Gordon.
Gordon,
they were celebrating Yeremina's.
I got a huge parlay, boy. Sorry.
all good. Anthony Gordon and Yeremina were celebrating by dancing together in their last game. I don't think there's going to be a lot of dancing by Yeremina in this game, so we'll see what happens. So we'll take a quick break here, guys, and then we'll be back with a special section. So stay with us. Welcome back to House of Footy, guys. We are now introducing a new section.
Rumours.
Thank you, Mac. You heard it. Rumors, and more specifically transfer rumors, as obviously January is around the corner and that exciting time of the transfer window being open leaves us with a lot of excitement. So quickly, Mac, you mentioned here Chelsea have been active and potentially bringing another player. What do you think they have up their sleeve there?
Well, there's reports, and I want to be honest here. All you got to do is follow Fabrizio on Twitter, but we're just going to break down kind of his takes and kind of see the recent transactions. But there's reports that they're close to finishing off their third signing of 2023. They've already signed Fofana and Andrei Santos. Those have already been confirmed, wrapped up, deals done. But those are more for long-term projecting plannings, where the third signing is the center back from Monaco, Benoit Bashidi. Either way, the signing is rumored to be between 35 to 40 million euros, but is another strong, big, tall, decent on the ball center half for Chelsea. After already having their summer window of the other Fofana as well as Koulibaly coming in, so this would be the third center half signing. So they're really trying to collect all the Infinity Stones in the back line, I guess. But the reports there, that's deal's pretty much done. So it'll be interesting to see. Do you think? I wanted to ask the both of you, is this to the point that this is overkill? Because there are other areas of the pitch I think we would all agree they want to more focus on. As earlier mentioned, they've only scored 19 goals thus far in the Premier League. So creative sense, attacking front three, been poor thus far this year. And midfield injuries have been very, very inconsistent there. So I guess I know maybe he's a younger player. We may not know much about him, but seems to be not a long-term, not sure, let's say, he's not a project because he's going to play, I feel like, sooner rather than later. But do you think that maybe they should have looked at other players instead, or what are your thoughts there?
Personally, you know what? I just looked it up. He's 21 years old. Honestly, not the worst thing that could happen. You have aging center backs in Koulibaly and Thiago Silva, who I'm surprised both of them are well, they have to be starting because Wesley Fofana is injured currently, but I would be surprised if they continue with their starting roles, at least Thiago Silva, throughout the rest of the season, as I'm sure Graham Potter is looking to rejuvenate that squad and make it younger. So I would have personally liked to see them make a move for a midfielder, which we can talk about maybe in a little bit, but just because I think we mentioned it, Gio, last time, they have Nkunku coming up in the next year, and so I don't think they're going to splash out too much going forward. It is, I think, a transitional year for them, and so spending a lot and having them all come in the summer and trying to, I guess, just get up to speed with everyone might be too much. So I would have expected something in the midfield. Maybe they are still planning to do that, but yeah. What do you think, Gio?
Yeah, look, I like we said in the previous pod, I think the midfield is their weakest point at this point. Just to help with creativity, just to get the other guys going. I think it's important to attack the midfield right now. Now, I did say, it's going to be tough for them because buyers in the January window often overspend. But if that means for them to guarantee Declan Rice, one way or another, by all means try to, but if you can't, you can't. But you do have to look for backup options in terms of the midfield. If your target was Declan Rice from the very beginning, then I say try your best to get him and just seal the deal now because we've seen how last ditch deals can be made. Other teams come and swoop in the deal. How things can look good until the 12th hour. Sort of how the Mbappe thing with Real Madrid. Everybody thought he was going to Real Madrid, and then with a twist of fate, the oil god said, "We will give you everything," and he said, "Okay." So things, crazier things can happen. We do know how Man U love to overspend, so you can't count anything out. So yeah, if I were Chelsea, if I was Dan Boley, is that his name? Yeah, just spend the money. Just spend the money. You're like Ray mentioned, and Cuckoo's coming in. So that's a guaranteed attacking threat. And the midfield is your next one. In terms of defenders, I think summer is the best time to sign defenders, simply because they need chemistry with their partners. Is as simple as that. If they bring another one in, I don't think it's gonna better the mix. I think it's just gonna cause more confusion later on.
Okay, Mac, do you want to talk to us about some of their potential midfielder targets?
There are two major midfield targets that have been talked about, I guess, in this transfer window. And coming off even the World Cup performance where Declan Rice and Enzo Fernandez, Declan Rice saying that he wants to be able to look at being in a team that's consistently competing for trophies, and Fernandez, of course, being the young player of the tournament. That's generally been a player that's been targeted. However, both David Moyes and representatives from Benfica, respectively, for both players, have said there's 0% chance a transfer is happening this window. I think while we're talking about Chelsea and reinforcements, I think that's an area of pitch between those two players that they have been heavily linked to. Declan Rice, of course, best friends with Mason Mount, and Fernandez being a player that they can potentially splash some cash on, but not have to pay maybe as much for in comparison to Declan Rice, because of course there is always that English tax, right? So I guess between the two of them, if you're Chelsea, who would you want to target? Can they even afford to wait until summer? Because unless there really is, as Ray brought up earlier, it's a transitional year where, we don't want any European soccer this year. We're just okay being out of it. Let's finish 8th, 9th, 10th and just kind of accept it now and work on next year. But is that not then harder to bring in players like that want to play in those competitions? So can they really afford to wait? And between the two, who would you want them to target?
I would personally wait if I'm Chelsea, and target likely Declan Rice, given his track record in the Premier League. Just personally, just easier to mold, and I think making that big move now, it would be great for them to get him and have him settle in as soon as possible. But it would be a lot to destabilize West Ham, and I don't think that West Ham will be looking to just sell him for cheap. So I would personally wait. What do you think, Gio?
Again, like I said, if they can guarantee it, I would just get it done now. Money is made to be spent. If you want to make it back, hey, stay in the top four. So hey, that's the only way they're going to do it. So and they're not going to win it with this midfield. I know how much Mac loves Jorginho and his leadership. I just don't think he has it this year. If it means getting them deeper into the Champions League competition, if it means getting them into the top four, then spend the money now. because you will make it back. You definitely will
Right.
make it back.
How funny would it be? We hear about Declan Rice wanting to play with his best friend Mason Mount. How funny would it be if it went the other way and Mason Mount actually had to leave to go to West Ham, and they'll be together, but they just won't be playing for Chelsea. Hey,
Stranger things have happened. Stranger things have happened.
Oh,
And I wouldn't be surprised if
laugh.
they're part of a swap for each other, considering which would be even more funny for me. But now to move on to a different team, and I think this is something that I know we've talked about previously, is that there's been Arsenal have officially made an offer which has been rejected by Shakhtar Donetsk for Mudryk. It was for 40 million euros plus an additional 20 of add-ons, so potentially up to 60. They want in the range of 100 million euros, which they're referencing both the Jack Grealish and Antony signings over the previous years. But I guess maybe this Gapco signing for just 37 maybe look as a counterbalance. And there's been a lot of reports about Shakhtar Donetsk are probably going to come down on their offer, but are kind of their demands, but Arsenal will have to go up. It'll be interesting to see how they thread the needle there. I think the most funny thing that I've seen recently is where Mudryk on his Instagram story is watching Arsenal games and putting it out there, which is just you can clearly see the player wants to move. The club Arsenal do want to sign him, but Shakhtar want a lot of money. I know we've talked about him individually before, but I guess quick fire on this one. Do you think this is it's definitely going to happen? Arsenal is just going to pay up, or do you think they'll walk away if it starts to get closer to that 80 million, 90 million price tag?
I don't think it's actually going to go that high, because as I think it gets closer to the end of the deadline, teams become very desperate, and Shakhtar being able to receive a fee excess of 50, I think they would be happy. And if Arsenal hold their position, similar to what happened with, I think it was Ozil a number of years ago when they signed him the last day, that something like that could happen. And it's clear you have a player that wants to go, and it's pretty much set. I think Arsenal should hold out for not something preposterous in the 100 mil range, and see it that way, because obviously you don't want to break the bank on someone who I don't think they expect to be their main guy going forward. What do you think, Gio?
Yeah, if it gets upwards of those numbers, I think they should definitely walk away from the deal. Look, if the player has made the effort to post that on Instagram, then they're bound to make a deal. So yeah, if I was Shakhtar Donetsk, you just gotta make the money where you can, and just call it what it is. It's a player market these days, where players can just sort of almost demand transfers and almost get it to happen. On the other side, I don't like how Mudryk is handling it, posting that stuff on Instagram. Because what if things go bad at Arsenal? Then what are you gonna post? Then how are you gonna be a dickhead? And English fans are different. So I mean, if you're prepared for that, then hey, do your thing. You better hope you perform as you're performing now. So that doesn't have to happen. But if that were to happen, God bless, brother.
No, I completely agree in terms of it's not all roses as soon as you make the transfer. There can be a difficulty in transitioning to a new league, a new team. And the Shakhtar are definitely an interesting team through their transfer history. So will be, like I said, interesting to see how it plays out. But now to go, I guess, on individual player, Joao Felix. I know that this is a player of interest to all of us, but he's been actually offered on loan for 6 months to several different clubs. Reports are that he's been offered to Manchester United, Chelsea, Arsenal for that 6-month loan. But we'll have to get it across the line in terms of the offering is that the full salary has to be paid plus an additional 8 million euros. All clubs have reneged that and said, nope, the finances are a little bit too much for us. But it seems like Atletico really do want to be able to offload him, at least for that loan, to be able to save money. Simeone, I think it was earlier today after Joao Felix actually scored a goal, he said, while he's here, I'll try to get the best out of Joao Felix for the club. Then we'll see what's going to happen. That it's really kind of spelling, you know what? It is what it is. Whatever happens, happens. But it seems like they wouldn't be, like I said, opposed to moving him out and are aggressively looking to be able to do so. when I'm saying this, and why I want to be able to kind of play it right off the Arsenal conversation, as well as introduce the Manchester United conversation, and even the Chelsea's conversation as well, all three are really looking for kind of attacking help. Manchester United aren't looking to be able to throw a striker. Chelsea right now, with the goal scoring record, not the greatest. Do they need to be able to bring in a striker? Arsenal are now looking for a replacement for Gabriel Jesus. I guess if he's to go to any of the three, what makes the most sense for you? What would you like to see happen? Or taking out the financial aspect, because I think that no team is going to agree to that initial offer. Maybe it'll be somewhere in the middle. But what would you want to play out? Right?
Yeah, honestly, if it's a short-term loan, the club that makes most sense for is for Arsenal. They have Gabriel Jesus to come back, and so just to fill in the gap when he's injured, help Arsenal obviously challenge and go as close as possible to get that title, and as well, obviously, and at the same time secure top four, a top four spot. That's I think the main goal, and then reassess then. See how that loan goes out for them. Man U, I think, are more so looking for, I think, a long-term solution, and so a loan is not really going to help Man U, I don't think, at all. Just maybe a couple goals here and there, but I think they're looking more so long-term. So even if they don't get a striker signing, I wouldn't be surprised. They might be waiting for summer to get that right person to be the next phase of the club in terms of going forward. But what do you think, Gio?
I guess we can just slide it into a transitioning topic. No, I don't think Joao's the right one at this time, especially on the loan. I think yes, I would agree with Ray that the loan to Arsenal would kind of make me sense, but financially, I don't think any club is willing to make that financial commitment. It just doesn't make sense. At that point, you can almost get a cheaper option by getting a more experienced veteran striker as a backup, and hope you can fit him in as opposed to spending that type of money for Joao. I know there's levels to this, different players, different caliber type players. But again, if our Man U, since we're talking Man U, it's a different Atletico Madrid player that I'm looking at, and that's Alvaro Morata. Let's get into this money laundering scheme that everybody seems to be a part of. The Man U should get into that. Look, he's played in the Prem. He scores these oddly timely goals, and I just think he'll work. He'll have height. I just think it'll work as a. Whether it's a loan, whether it's a cheap buy, I think he has that almost experience where he's been around the world, and he's definitely played in the Prem. So it's a possibility. I hope it's a possibility if they can get him for a fair price.
So I love that, Gio. I just want to take over because Mac's face has remained unchanged since Gio mentioned the name Alvaro Morata. Hey, our Atletico, we know they were having troubles paying that fee to Barcelona for the Griezmann situation. So it could be possible that they're looking to offload multiple players. But Mac, what do you think about Gio's proposal here?
I don't know what to say. I'll be honest with you. I think this is I've never been this speechless before. It's interesting. I don't know if it's a long-term option because he's definitely an older player. Unless the plan is to really make Rashford their number 9, that's the player they're going to build around, set in stone. We're not looking to be more additive. We're kind of more to be more suppletive to his player profile. I think Morata's an interesting player. I've definitely enjoyed him play. And I think he's been kind of getting the short stick of things, especially while his time in the Premier League, playing for a Chelsea team that did not want to pass him the ball continuously. I think he can be an interesting rotation option. So I don't think that's a horrible shell. At least the only thing is, I think it's again, is the timeline question, because now this would be another player they're bringing in on the wrong side of 30, right? Where that's not going to be something where you're going to be able to kind of set in for the next 6-7 years and be happy with. This is really, you know what? Like I said, this is the backup for Rashford. And I was going to ask that, what striker would you want Manchester United to sign? Gio, thank you for answering that question.
Alvaro, baby.
I would be shocked if they do go to that. I like the call. I think it's fun. I think it's interesting, and I think you could get him on the cheap. and at least puts you in a position where you can hold off on wearing that for the next year or two, maybe focus more on finally getting that long-term defensive midfielder signing, but then you've already got Casemiro. And it's just, again, I think they got to be looking at bigger picture, longer-term players to be foundational, and I don't know if Morata's that option. But at the same time, I don't know if there's a striker out there right now that I think is that player that they want. So does this kind of sedate that need in the meantime? I think that's more so the interesting part. Because Osimhen, I guess, Gio, from your perspective, which has been the most heavy link for Manchester United, is not it.
Not it.
Okay.
See, it's like, I guess for a club sort of in the situation of Manchester United, because we were on the topic, I just think, yes, it's important to bring, integrate younger players, bring in talent that you want for longer periods of time. But again, the thing is experience, and he has it, and depth is something that Man U still struggle with. So I understand where you want to bring in younger players, but even if we bring in younger talent, per se, the next generational striker for Man U, the next generational defensive midfielder for Man U, the transitional period is going to take some time, and we've seen it happen where in Man U specifically, where these younger players go into these droughts, and it's almost like, do they really fit on this team? And then all these questions start to come. Happened with Anthony Martial, where he had a hot start, score a couple against Liverpool, okay, he's the next wonder kid, he's going to do great things for Man U in a Man U shirt. And then he goes through this cold spell, yada yada, this, that, should we sell him? What are we going to do with him? He's broken, yada yada, this, that, and the fourth. At least at this point, when we bring in experience, and that's why I wasn't mad at the Eriksen signing once it happened. They needed depth, they need experience, and it's starting to pay off. Like you see it, he's comfortable on the ball. He's been in the Prem. It's almost like a nature to him. And when you bring another player who's experienced the Prem, the media, this and that, and the fourth, the travel, this kind of makes sense. So I think it's important to bring in experience and just bring in depth. Whether they want to sign a younger striker, by all means, but slowly integrate them. It doesn't have to be as quick as they want it to be. It's still a rebuild, and I think bringing him a player where you can use him for a year and a half, 2 years, and then let him sail off in the sunset and play in La Liga for the rest of his life, by all means. But I think now is as good of an opportunity as ever to bring in a player for a much cheaper price than we would pay for him, say, in a summer window where they have the time to negotiate what they want for him.
So that's
Okay.
fair. That's fair. I see where you're coming from there. But just to be able to, I guess, wrap up a couple of the other teams, as you talked about, experience, not really bringing in younger players. These other teams at the top end of the Premier League that happen in transfer rumors. Spurs, Conte saying that Tottenham want to invest in young players, talents, but with accessible salaries. So you don't see them potentially kind of splashing a whole lot of cash. And I guess if you're Kane and Son, you're not looking at maybe getting reinforcements to compete for something bigger this year. And Newcastle, there haven't been any really heavy links from what we've seen. And Man City do what they do and just sign a South American kid for €8 million. That's not going to play for the team for another couple of years probably, right? So they're doing what they do. I guess before we wrap up, Gio, you gave us kind of a hot take off the press. Ray, I'm sorry to leave you in that position, but I guess if you had a surprise transfer or just to be able to wrap up before we go, was there one that I guess screams out to you that you would want to see happen? Surprising, maybe something that we haven't talked about. What screams out to you?
So we did mention it quickly during the break. I'm a Liverpool fan, and so I follow a lot of Liverpool news. The reports are saying Liverpool are making a second bid for Moises Caicedo, which I won't believe it till I see it. Obviously, he would be perfect for the team, and moving forward, he would be a great fit for the future, and in an area that Liverpool are lacking. I personally, though, don't expect it to happen in this transfer window. Even though that signing came out of nowhere, I don't expect anything else to happen unless Liverpool surprise all of us. So that's my standout. I'm not sure if it will happen, but it'll be nice to see if it does.
No, that's fair. I really like that. I guess just for mine, I really want to see which team is going to jump on the McAllister bandwagon. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm going to two teams if Liverpool or Chelsea make an offer for a player like him to play in the midfield. I think that he'd be an interesting spot beside a defensive midfielder. If you're playing a three across midfield, kind of for Liverpool, he can play in that shut the run. Maybe replace that Hendo or the Thiago in those spots. Maybe not have the same level of quality, but he showed a lot for Argentina, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's a player that's looked at to have a move, given his World Cup performance. But that's my shout.
Yeah, I think Benfica are laughing because they're expecting a lot of bids to come for Enzo, and as expected. But I think they'll definitely get upwards of 50 mil for Enzo, whether it happens now or end of the year. It's just a matter of time. But yeah, I guess that does wrap up our podcast for today, though. If you like what you heard, please like and subscribe to us on our social medias. Our handle is @houseof_footy. If you have any comments, suggestions, or general banter, feel free to get in touch with us via email as well. houseoffooty@hotmail.com. The next time you hear from us will be Tuesday when we review the action for match week 18 and preview match day 19 of the Premier League. But on that note, thank you, Gio, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mac.
Happy to be back.
And thank you guys for listening.